Lesson 5F, the components of blood. The blood that flows through the blood vessels of the cardiovascular system has many roles in the human body, including the transportation of nutrients, waste and chemicals, a regulatory function in controlling body temperature and glucose levels, and a protective function preventing dangerous infections from viruses, bacteria, and parasites. When a whole blood sample is obtained from a subject, it may look uniformly homogeneous. However, when placed into a centrifuge, the denser elements will be pulled down to the bottom of the test tube, while the less dense will remain on the top. The yellow portion is the liquid portion of blood called plasma, while the denser material is collectively called the formed elements or the solids. Plasma contains organic and inorganic substances suspended in water and comprises approximately 55% of blood volume and contains compounds involved in transporting material, clotting blood, and fighting infections. Plasma also has a valuable role in maintaining blood volume. The formed elements of blood include red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, and they all originate in the bone marrow through a process called hematopoiesis. Bone marrow contains multipotent cells that have the potential to mature into many different types of cells, similar to stem cells but more limited. The majority of the solid objects formed by hematopoiesis are red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes. There are roughly 2 to 4 million red blood cells per cubic millimeter of whole blood, or 20 to 30 trillion in a human body, which is approximately 70% of the entire number of cells in the human body. The red blood cells are oxygen-carrying cells, but they lack a nucleus, so will only survive 120 days or so before being recycled by the liver and spleen. The body will replace these at a rate of 2.4 million red blood cells being formed every second. Each red blood cell contains 300 million hemoglobin molecules, a protein that holds 4 iron atoms that each can bind a diatomic molecule of oxygen, O2. The other 4 to 5% of blood is composed of white blood cells and platelets, all formed by the bone marrow as well. White blood cells, also known as leukocytes, are associated with fighting infections, and an elevated white blood cell count can indicate an illness. An elevated number of a particular white blood cell can be used to help identify a specific infection as well. There are 2 types of white blood cells, ones with a speckled appearance in their cytoplasm, and the others with a non-speckled appearance in the cytoplasm. The speckled are labeled granulocytes as though they have grains of sand in them. The 3 granulocytes are neutrophils, which are the most abundant, eosinophils, and basophils. Neutrophils are phagocytic, which means they will engulf foreign cells as though they are eating them. Basophils are cells that release histamine, which cause inflammation. Some of you that experience seasonal allergies are hypersensitive to allergens such as pollen, which initiate the release of histamine. This can lead to swelling, itchy eyes, and other symptoms. Histamine is a blood thinner and increases blood flow to infected regions, bringing other leukocytes and elements along with the blood. Eosinophils are important leukocytes involved in battling parasitic infections. The 2 agranulocytes or non-grainy in appearance leukocytes are the monocytes and the lymphocytes. The monocytes can be triggered to transform into macrophages, a relatively large phagocytic cell. The macrophage is a very big player in the human body's non-specific immune response and will engulf and destroy foreign cells found in the body. The T and B lymphocytes are cells that arise from bone marrow. However, the T cell will mature in the thymus, a lymphoid organ found above the heart, while the B cell will complete its maturation in the bone marrow. Both of these have a role in fighting viral infections and the formation of immunity to these infections in the future. The last product of hematopoiesis are the tiny blood cells called platelets. Platelets are formed from breaking off of larger cells in the bone marrow, and they number 150 to 300,000 per millimeter cube of whole blood. The sole purpose of platelets is to assist in the clotting of breaks in the human organism's closed circulatory system to prevent blood loss.